Evelyn's hands trembled as she gripped the steering wheel, rain hammering relentlessly against the windshield like a furious drumbeat. 9 hours. 9 agonizing hours through a relentless storm, her arthritic knees aching with every mile. All for a moment she dared to imagine, but never truly believed would come. She was driving through a tempest both outside and inside her heart. In the passenger seat, nestled safely between 2 pillows, sat the fragile centerpiece of her hope, a 3-layer carrot cake carefully crafted with trembling hands and decades of love folded into every bite. She was on a mission fueled by a desperate mix of love-longing and a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. But what she didn't know, what no mother ever imagines when she plans a surprise, was the storm waiting for her inside the home she once called safe. A storm far colder and harsher than any weather could muster. Evelyn had spent months preparing this trip, rehearsing the moment she would walk through the door and see her daughter Claire. She pictured Claire's eyes widening in surprise, a gasp escaping her lips, the familiar warmth of an embrace that had become rare and distant over the years. She imagined the familiar laughter, the shared memories, the softening of years of silence. Instead, what greeted her was silence broken by laughter that wasn't joyful but cruel, sharp as shards of glass. As she stepped into the foyer, soaked to the bone and exhausted beyond words, she heard her name spoken with a bitterness so chilling it stopped her heart. Claire's voice clear and cutting, and then Michael's, her son-in-law's, laughter mocking the very idea of her presence. "Mom called again this morning," Claire said, her tone laced with irritation. "Or at least get lost for a weekend. Give us a break from the guilt trips." Michael's laughter echoed behind her words, cold and dismissive. Evelyn's hand shook, the cake box suddenly unbearably heavy in her grasp. The daughter she had raised with sleepless nights and tireless love, the little girl she once cradled in her arms, had just wished her away. Wished her to disappear, to be silenced. It was a betrayal so profound that it shattered every hope Evelyn had held on to. Her heart, already weathered by years of grief and loneliness, cracked wide open in that instant. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She simply placed the cake down on the pristine kitchen counter and turned away, every step heavy with disbelief and a sinking realization the home she had driven to was no longer hers to enter. The relationship she had treasured was a fragile illusion, shattered by words that cut deeper than any blade. As she walked back through the rainwater, soaked her through, mingling with tears she refused to shed. The storm outside mirrored the tempest inside her, relentless, unforgiving. Driving away, Evelyn was left with a question she never expected to face. How do you go on when the people you love most wish you weren't there? When the ties meant to bind you together become chains of neglect and cruelty? This isn't just a story about a broken family. It's about the silent wounds carried by so many, the invisible scars of love turned to obligation, affection to resentment, connection to control. It's about what happens when love is weaponized, and the hardest battles are fought not in courtrooms or public arenas, but in the quiet spaces between phone calls and the silences at the dinner table, in the spaces where laughter turns to cruelty. And it's about the moment when a woman battered by life's storms finds the courage not just to endure, but to fight back, to reclaim her dignity, her worth, and ultimately, her life. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever wondered whether love is enough to overcome betrayal, if you want to witness a journey of heartbreak and healing, then stay with us. This story will take you through the depths of pain and the heights of resilience, revealing the quiet strength that lives within us all. Before we dive deeper, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world and motivates us to keep sharing stories that touch the heart and speak to the silent struggles many endure. Hit that subscribe button now and be part of a community that celebrates courage, resilience, and the power of self-love. Now let me ask you something before we continue. When faced with betrayal from someone you love, do you think the best response is to try to forgive and mend the relationship no matter what? Or B, set firm boundaries and protect yourself even if it means walking away? Type all your sets in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Stay tuned. Evelyn's journey is just beginning, and what comes next will challenge everything she thought she knew about family love and strength. After the storm of that dreadful afternoon, Evelyn returned to the quiet of her Charlottesville home. But inside her, a tempest was just beginning to rage. The laughter she overheard, the bitterness in Claire's voice, the cold mockery from Michael, these were not mere words tossed carelessly in frustration. They were the sharp edges of a deeper truth she had long avoided, a truth she now could no longer deny. Evelyn was no stranger to hardship. Widowed for nearly a decade, she had learned to navigate life's challenges with quiet dignity. Her home, filled with memories of Robert and the family they built, was her refuge. Yet in recent years, the walls had grown silent, the space between her and Claire widening with every missed call, every canceled visit, every polite excuse that barely disguised avoidance. She had told herself that distance was a byproduct of life's busyness, that Claire's new life with Michael, their careers, their social circles simply left little room for the mother who had raised her with unwavering love. She blamed herself at times, wondering if her grief or neediness had become a burden too heavy to bear. But grief was only part of the story. One day, as Evelyn was sorting through bills and statements, she noticed something unsettling. Several credit card bills carried Claire and Michael's charges, but the accounts were under Evelyn's name. At first, she dismissed it as a courtesy, a gesture of trust. But the balances were high, the limits far beyond what Evelyn imagined. There were also loans she had guaranteed without fully understanding the extent. Loans that had been used for home renovations, luxury vacations, even a beach house in Rhode Island she had never known about. The realization settled like a cold weight on her chest. Her love had been monetized, her generosity exploited. While Claire and Michael enjoyed a life of privileged vacations, expensive dinners, a pool in their backyard, Evelyn's own finances bore the silent cost. They had told her they couldn't afford plane tickets to visit for Christmas, yet their social media told a different story. Evelyn felt a profound mix of betrayal and sorrow. How could the daughter she had nurtured, the child she had sacrificed for, treat her as nothing more than a credit line? The emotional pain was sharp, but the financial exploitation cut even deeper, a betrayal of trust that felt like the final fracture in their relationship. In the midst of this upheaval, Evelyn found unexpected strength in her neighbor and longtime friend Marjorie. Marjorie, a retired nurse with a no-nonsense approach to life, had been a quiet support through Evelyn's grief and recent struggles. When Evelyn confided in her about the financial discoveries, Marjorie didn't offer pity or empty comfort. Instead, she urged Evelyn to protect herself, to seek counsel, and to reclaim her power. "You've been a rock for others your whole life," Marjorie said firmly one afternoon as they tended the garden together. "Now it's time to be a rock for yourself." That simple encouragement sparked a determination in Evelyn. She began to research her legal rights, to untangle the complicated web of financial agreements she had unknowingly woven. Each revelation stung, but it also ignited a fierce resolve not to be victimized any longer. She reflected on the nature of love and respect, realizing they could not coexist with manipulation and deceit. The sacrifices she had made were never a license for exploitation. She understood that boundaries were not barriers to love, but the foundation for healthy relationships. As Evelyn began this painful but necessary journey towards self-protection, she felt the first flickers of empowerment, the quiet, steady flame that would grow to light her path through the darkest times. In the days and nights that followed, Evelyn wrestled with conflicting emotions. There was grief for the mother-daughter bond she had hoped to preserve, anger at the betrayal she endured, and a deep sadness for the years lost to illusion. Yet beneath it all, there was a new clarity, a dawning awareness that she deserved more than to be used and discarded. Evelyn knew the road ahead would be difficult. She would have to confront not only Claire and Michael, but also her own fears and vulnerabilities. But she was no longer willing to remain silent or invisible. With Marjorie's steady friendship and her own growing courage, Evelyn prepared to reclaim her life, her dignity, and her future. A future not defined by others' demands, but by her own strength and self-respect. Evelyn sat quietly in the office of Dana Mitchell, the weight of recent revelations settling around her like a thick fog. The room was sharp and cool, the kind of space designed to discourage weakness and encourage clarity, much like Dana herself. With her flaming red hair and piercing gaze, Dana exuded an air of authority and unwavering confidence. Evelyn, despite the turmoil that had engulfed her life, found a strange comfort in that strength. For the first time in months, Evelyn felt the possibility of control returning to her hands. The meeting was not merely about changing a will or handling finances. It was about reclaiming her life, her dignity, and her peace of mind. Dana listened patiently as Evelyn recounted every painful detail: the betrayal of trust, the exploitation of love, the cold laughter that shattered the fragile hope Evelyn had carried for years. Without interruption, Dana took notes, her expression unreadable yet empathetic. When Evelyn finished, Dana's voice was steady but firm. "We're going to take this step by step. First, the will. You have every right to decide where your assets go. No one can take that from you." She paused, meeting Evelyn's eyes. You can leave your estate to those who truly value you, whether that's a charity friends or others who have shown genuine care. Evelyn nodded relief, mixing with the sting of reality. It was a bittersweet moment to decide to exclude Claire and Michael from the inheritance, but it was necessary. For too long, Evelyn's love had been treated like a resource, her generosity exploited without gratitude. Dana's partner, a specialist in banking law, joined the conversation to explain the complex web of financial disentanglement. We'll notify credit card companies, mortgage lenders, and loan agencies that you are rescinding all guarantees and withdrawing from joint accounts immediately, he explained. This will protect you from further financial liability and force your daughter and son-in-law to face the consequences of their actions. The words felt like a double-edged sword. Evelyn was both terrified and empowered. The practical steps were clear, but the emotional toll was immense. This was no longer just about money. It was about asserting boundaries that had been crossed for too long. Outside of legalities, Evelyn's inner transformation was equally profound. In the days that followed, she sought healing through mindfulness and reflection. She attended meditation sessions that taught her to hold her pain without judgment, to breathe through the waves of grief and anger. Journaling became a sanctuary, a private space where she poured out years of sorrow, confusion, and finally hope. Writing her story piece by piece helped Evelyn reclaim her narrative from the chaos of betrayal. She also began to explore long-neglected passions. Signing up for watercolor classes at the local community center, Evelyn rediscovered the joy of creating something beautiful from blank paper. Each brushstroke was a small act of reclaiming life and purpose, a reminder that even in the aftermath of loss, there was room for growth. Her circle of support expanded beyond family. Marjorie remained a steadfast companion, while Evelyn forged new friendships through volunteer work at the Charlottesville Women's Shelter. There, surrounded by women rebuilding their lives from hardship, Evelyn found a sense of solidarity and meaning. Their resilience mirrored her own, and together they formed a tapestry of strength and renewal. This chapter of Evelyn's journey also deepened her awareness of a broader social issue, the silent epidemic of elder abuse and financial exploitation within families. She resolved to become an advocate, sharing her experience to raise awareness and empower others to protect themselves. With every legal document signed, every meditation session attended, and every new friend embraced, Evelyn stepped further away from the role of victim and closer to that of survivor and warrior. The path was neither straight nor easy, but it was hers, a path marked by courage, self-respect, and an unyielding commitment to living authentically. In this journey, Evelyn discovered that true strength was not in enduring pain silently, but in standing up for oneself, setting boundaries, and choosing dignity over denial. It was a transformation that transcended the legal and financial, touching the very core of who she was, a woman reclaiming her life one deliberate step at a time. The aftermath of Evelyn's decisive actions sent shockwaves through the fragile world Claire and Michael had carefully constructed. No longer shielded by Evelyn's financial backing, their lives unraveled with a harsh clarity that words alone could not express. The credit cards were frozen, the mortgage company demanded answers, and the closing on their dream beach house was abruptly canceled. The luxury and ease they once took for granted slipped away, revealing a reality built more on illusion than stability. Yet what struck Evelyn most profoundly was not the financial chaos that engulfed her daughter and son-in-law, but their response to it. The calls started almost immediately, urgent, desperate, laced with pleading and thinly veiled accusations. Claire's voice, once warm and familiar, now trembled with frustration and entitlement. "Mom, this is punishment for one moment of weakness," she said during one tense phone call. "We love you, we just got overwhelmed." Evelyn listened, her heart heavy but resolute. "This is not punishment, Claire," she replied calmly, her voice steady. "This is consequence. The consequence of years of disregard, of being treated like a resource instead of a person." Michael, too, wove his own tangled web of charm and blame. Some days he reached out with apologies coded in smooth words, trying to persuade Evelyn to relent. Other days his tone hardened, accusing her of manipulation, of using guilt as a weapon. Evelyn saw the bitter irony in his words. The very people who had manipulated her love now accused her of controlling them. Outside the immediate family, Evelyn's decisions rippled into the broader circles of their lives. Extended family members, acquaintances, and neighbors weighed in with varied opinions. Some expressed quiet sympathy and admiration for Evelyn's courage, others offered avoidance or thinly veiled judgment. But Evelyn found herself unmoved by their voices. She was no longer bound by the expectations or opinions of those who never truly saw her worth. In the sanctuary of her volunteer work at the Charlottesville Women's Shelter, Evelyn met women with stories that mirrored her own. Tales of betrayal cloaked in love manipulation disguised as care. These encounters deepened her understanding of the insidious nature of emotional and financial abuse, and strengthened her resolve to advocate for those who, like her, had been silenced for too long. Choosing peace over bitterness became Evelyn's mantra. She understood that clinging to anger would only bind her to the past, trapping her in a cycle of pain and resentment. Instead, she cultivated compassion, not for those who had hurt her, but for herself, for the strength it took to say no and walk away. The contrast between toxic and healthy relationships became vividly clear. Toxic bonds demanded sacrifice without reciprocity, draining the soul and eroding self-worth. Healthy connections, Evelyn realized, were grounded in mutual respect, honesty, and care. This insight reshaped her understanding of family, not defined by blood alone, but by the quality of love and respect shared. Evelyn embraced the concept of chosen family, the friends and community members who valued her authenticity and offered genuine support. These relationships blossomed into a network of care that filled the emotional spaces left by Claire and Michael's absence. Though the echoes of betrayal still stirred painful memories, Evelyn moved forward with grace and determination. She no longer sought validation from those who had dismissed her, but instead found strength in her own voice and the connection she nurtured. The consequences of her actions were undeniable: financial, emotional, and relational, but they were also necessary. Evelyn understood that without these boundaries and the willingness to face difficult truths, she would remain trapped in a life defined by obligation and exploitation. In reclaiming her power, Evelyn had also redefined what family meant to her. It was no longer a place of conditional love and hidden agendas, but a space of mutual respect, chosen connections, and authentic belonging. This chapter of Evelyn's life was not marked by loss alone, but by the courageous act of choosing peace over conflict, respect over resentment, and freedom over fear. It was a testament to the quiet strength that arises when one refuses to accept less than they deserve. Through the ashes of broken trust, Evelyn was building a foundation not just for survival, but for a life of dignity, joy, and genuine connection. And in doing so, she inspired not only herself, but others who witnessed her journey, a beacon of hope for anyone who has ever faced betrayal and chosen to rise above it. In the months following the upheaval, Evelyn found herself standing on unfamiliar but exhilarating ground, a place of healing renewal and cautious hope. The weight that had pressed upon her chest for so long began to lift, replaced by a fragile but growing sense of freedom. She was no longer defined by the pain inflicted by Claire and Michael, but by the choices she made to reclaim her life. Evelyn's days took on a new rhythm, one filled with activities and passions she had long put aside. She returned to the woods near Charlottesville, wandering the trails of Shenandoah National Park, where the crisp air and vibrant foliage stirred something deep within her. The physical challenge of hiking was a test her arthritic knees protested, but each step was a declaration of resilience, a quiet triumph over the limitations imposed by years of pain and grief. Her watercolor paints, once gathering dust, became instruments of expression and solace. Each brushstroke on paper was a meditation, a way to articulate feelings too complex for words. Through colors blending and shapes emerging, Evelyn rediscovered a creative spark that rekindled her spirit. The act of painting was a quiet rebellion against the chaos of her past, a claim to beauty and order born from vulnerability. Beyond these personal pursuits, Evelyn immersed herself in community. Her volunteer work at the Charlottesville Women's Shelter deepened, where she found both purpose and companionship. The stories of the women she met, survivors of abuse and hardship, echoed her own experience, creating a tapestry of shared strength. Evelyn's guidance and empathy became a beacon for many as she helped others navigate the treacherous path from victimhood to empowerment. Small, intimate gatherings replaced the grand family events Evelyn once yearned for. Friends she had chosen, authentic souls who saw and cherished her for who she was, joined her for dinners and conversations that felt genuine and nourishing. The carrot cake she baked, now with ginger and orange zest, was served as a symbol of renewal, a new recipe for a new chapter. Emotionally, Evelyn embraced therapy, confronting the tangled emotions that had lingered beneath the surface. Grief, anger, disappointment, these were no longer burdens to carry alone. Through guided reflection, she learned that healing was not a destination, but a journey, one filled with setbacks, as well as victories. Forgiveness, she realized, was a choice, not a requirement, and sometimes the kindest act was to protect oneself, even if that meant keeping distance. Then came an unexpected call from Claire. Her voice was tentative, softer than before, a fragile bridge across the chasm that had grown between them. Claire shared news of a pregnancy. Evelyn was to be a grandmother. The news stirred a complicated mix of emotions: hope for new life, caution born of past wounds, and a deep longing for connection. Evelyn extended an invitation to rebuild, starting with simple weekly coffees where financial matters were off limits. These meetings were cautious and slow, but they marked a beginning, a willingness to try to listen and to heal. Claire's journey was her own therapy, self-awareness, and the hard work of facing uncomfortable truths. Michael, meanwhile, wrestled with the loss of financial support and the pressures of sustaining their life. Though his charm sometimes faltered, he made tentative efforts to support Claire and their growing family, revealing cracks beneath the polished surface. Evelyn's life blossomed in ways she had never anticipated. Her blueberry bushes flourished in the garden, symbolizing patience and the rewards of nurturing over time. She joined a local hiking group for seniors, finding joy and camaraderie in shared adventures beneath open skies. Her social circle expanded with people who valued authenticity over pretense. The birth of her granddaughter became a poignant milestone, a symbol of hope and continuity. Evelyn penned a heartfelt card, welcoming the new life, expressing wishes for love built on respect and honesty, lessons hard-won through her own journey. Though the path ahead remained uncertain, Evelyn faced it with courage and grace. Healing was not complete, but the willingness to embrace imperfection and vulnerability marked profound progress. She no longer sought validation from the past, but nurtured the possibilities of the future. In reclaiming her life, Evelyn discovered that renewal was possible at any age. The chapters of loss and betrayal gave way to stories of growth, connection, and joy. Through every sunrise and painted canvas, every shared meal and gentle conversation, she built a life reflective not of what had been lost, but of all that could still bloom. Evelyn sat quietly in her sunlit kitchen, the soft hum of the morning filling the space around her. The maple tree in her front yard, planted by Robert when Claire was born, was beginning to bud, a vivid symbol of renewal and the passage of time. In this moment, Evelyn reflected deeply on the journey she had traveled, one marked by pain, betrayal, resilience, and ultimately wisdom. Years ago, she might have believed that love was enough to overcome all obstacles. But now, Evelyn understood something far more profound: love without respect is hollow. Boundaries are not walls to keep others out, but the foundations that protect the self from being diminished or exploited. Setting them is not an act of selfishness, but one of courage and self-preservation. Her relationship with Claire had transformed, though the wounds of the past lingered. They spoke with more honesty, their interactions layered with new understandings and the painful acknowledgement of what had been lost. Evelyn no longer sought to erase the past, but to learn from it, to build something authentic on the fragile ground that remained. She knew that healing was a journey, not a destination, and that both would walk that path with open hearts, even if the road ahead remained uncertain. Evelyn's legacy was no longer defined solely by blood ties. Through her volunteer work, advocacy, and friendships, she had become a voice for those too often silenced. She spoke openly about the realities of emotional and financial abuse that so many older adults endure, championing awareness and empowerment. Her story became a beacon for others, proof that reclaiming one's life and dignity is possible no matter the age or circumstance. The friendships Evelyn nurtured now were chosen, genuine, and rooted in mutual respect. Gathered in her garden under fading twilight, they toasted to new beginnings with the familiar aroma of her ginger-orange carrot cake filling the air. Laughter and shared stories wove a new kind of family, one built on truth, support, and unconditional regard. Evelyn's paintings, once tentative strokes on blank canvases, now blossomed into vivid landscapes filled with light and shadow, reflecting the depth of human experience she had come to embrace. Her blueberry bushes bore fruit season after season, a testament to patience, nurturing, and the quiet rewards of tending one's inner life with care. In quiet moments, Evelyn revisited the lessons life had taught her. She cherished those who honored her worth, spoke her truth with kindness and strength, and released what no longer served her. She understood that some journeys require letting go, not of love, but of illusion. On a bright spring morning, as she folded fresh batter into a new cake recipe, her phone lit up with a message. It was from Claire, a photograph of Evelyn's granddaughter sleeping peacefully wrapped in a soft blanket. The caption read simply, "She has your eyes." Evelyn smiled gently. feeling a warmth that transcended the complexities of the past. The future, though uncertain, was now a canvas of possibility, one waiting to be painted with honesty, love, and the lessons of a life reclaimed. Her journey taught her that some storms are not meant to be endured, but to clear away what no longer belongs, making room for growth and renewal. At 79, Evelyn had finally found peace. In doing so, she illuminated a path for others to follow, a testament to the enduring power of courage, dignity, and the unwavering pursuit of self-worth. Evelyn's journey is a powerful story of love, betrayal, and ultimately self-empowerment. After driving 9 hours through a storm to surprise her daughter, she discovered painful truths, emotional rejection, and financial exploitation by those closest to her. Instead of surrendering to despair, Evelyn chose to reclaim her life. She set firm boundaries, sought legal protection, and began healing emotionally through therapy and new passions like painting and volunteering. Her story teaches us that true strength lies not in enduring pain silently, but in having the courage to say enough and protect oneself. Evelyn redefined family as those who offer respect and genuine care, not just blood ties. She found renewal in chosen relationships and meaningful community work. The deepest lesson is the importance of boundaries. Love without respect can become damaging, and sometimes stepping away from toxic relationships is the kindest act we can do for ourselves and others. Evelyn's experience encourages us to honor our worth, demand honesty and respect, and embrace healing as a gradual, ongoing process. Now I want to hear from you. When faced with betrayal from someone you love is the best response? A, to forgive and try to rebuild at any cost. Or B, to set firm boundaries and protect yourself, even if it means walking away. Comment. Or bah. Below. Your choice might help others reflect on their own lives. What are your thoughts on Evelyn's journey? Have you faced similar challenges? Share your opinions in the comments to support and learn from one another. If this story moved you, please subscribe to our channel. Your support inspires us to keep sharing stories of resilience and courage. Thank you for being part of our community.